Bienvenue à tous.
Evening to all of you. We'll be starting this informative session that our friends from MEDIA Catalunya just really were nice enough to sponsorize this afternoon. And the
question, quels seraient les sujets intéressants pour le producteur qui nous visite? Et voilà, la réponse est très simple.
And the response was very easy. Financing, where to find financing for our projects, for our ideas, for our films. And the CNC has always been one of the European institutions that were more committed with cinematography and documentary films also. So that's why we believe that it would be a good idea to invite a responsible of documentary films at the CNC in order to talk about their present policies and their World Cinema program, and to ask ourselves the question about today: what are the new ways of financing for projects, for independent projects? And the crowdfunding, for example, appeared. It's a reality. It's a very powerful one indeed, and we wanted to know more about this reality, so that's why we asked two crowdfunding platform representatives that are working perfectly well in Spain and in France. And actually, those friends just came here in order to inform and in order to debate. So if you have any questions, if you want to take the floor, so please feel free to do so. That's why we are here. First of all, I wanted to thank Elena Moreno, who is somebody that is giving a huge support to everything that has to do with our industry. And mainly, I want to thank her for her support to your work, actually, and to your strength and power. So welcome, Elena, and I want to thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much, Sergi. Thank you, Agnès, Matthias, and Aritz, for being here with us this evening, and I want to thank all of you for being here. As usual, I want to thank the government of Catalonia, to the Department of Culture, and to the ISEC and to the media unit that made possible MEDIA Antena Catalunya programs. I want to thank MEDIMED, I want to thank Sergi, Sona, and all the team. They were absolutely fantastic. And the team of MEDIMED Catalunya.
I would like to talk just briefly about media program inside the new umbrella that is called Creative Europe. As you probably might know, most of you, we are expecting to publish the new guidelines, but there are good news. Creative Europe will start in January 2014, and the philosophy of most of the lines of the media program will continue. But we will add some new news about video games, for instance, that will be eligible in the development stage, a new branded guideline for supporting film literacy and media literacy, and there will be two traditional guidelines of the media program that will be erased. But, well, erased is not a proper word to be chosen. I would say substituted. One of them is eye to eye, that will be included, the service of eye to eye and the challenges and the objective that eye to eye achieve will be included in the new financial instrument that we will present in the future, and training for 1 year that will not be in media but will be in Erasmus. So no big changes, which is good news. As you probably may know, we have 44 offices around Europe. So if you need to get more information on media program, you can not only consult the media website, Brussels, but also to go and ask for information in your closest office or in our respective websites. I think that's it for me. Just wishing you that this information that we're providing you about the CNC today and crowdfunding is interesting because, as Sergio said, for us the finance issue is really important, and I would only advance that if I had to pick up and choose one word, like a hashtag, okay? We were in Twitter vocabulary, like a hashtag for the coming media program in Creative Europe, it would be co-production. So with that aim, thank you again for all of you to make that possible. Merci beaucoup. Bienvenidos, bienvenidas. Muchas gracias.
Merci, Elena.
Thank you very much, Elena.
Merci vraiment parce que
I want to really thank you because Elena is somebody who has given us a huge support and who's supporting also producers here in Catalonia through very refined work that she carries out. And I want to welcome Ms. Tricot, who was nice to be with us throughout the whole weekend here. And she will, as I told you before, she's going to open a little bit the doors of the CNC in order to understand how it works. Well, actually, I want to correct what Jordi said now. First of all, CNC is not a European institution. It's really French. It's very French, actually, and sometimes it is difficult in terms of international financing. And also, I'm not responsible for documentary films. I am one of the members of the team. For those who don't know the CNC, it's the Cinematography National Center and of Animated Image, and whose president is Olivier Rodin. We have a new president. Actually, we have 473 agents, being those civil servants or not. We have 4 sites, 4 in Paris and 1 in the Parisian region, and it is a public administration establishment that also has a level of central administration that gives it a particular status as compared to other public establishments. And in order to understand how CNC works, we need to understand where those financing comes from. Actually, there are 3 taxes that usually flow towards the center. First of all, we have a tax that is taken from the price of the tickets to go to the movie theater. So each one that anybody just buys a ticket to go to a movie theater, there's a part actually that is sent immediately to the center. There's another tax for editors and distributors of TV programs that's quite enormous. And there's a third one on the sale and rent of videos. So these are the 3 taxes that give a complete autonomy to the CNC, because since 1988 CNC does not receive any subsidy from the state, from the Minister of Culture. So it's completely independent, and this is very important for its functioning. In 2012, the budget of our center was of 750 million euros, and this is quite a nice amount of money. And this money actually is distributed in 2 types of fundings. One fundings of 323 million euros for the cinema, and another program for television, which is 290 million euros. And all this is just a selective one or automatic one. I just don't want to go in the details of the machinery, because I believe that it is too early for you now to understand all those ins and outs in order to understand our institution. So I will be talking about the two directorates that we have, the international directorate, that could be interesting for you in order to look for partners for eventual possible co-productions. And there is my directorate, which is the directorate of audiovisual production. The international directorate in CNC is led by the directorate of the European and International Affairs, and it has as a mission the support for the French producers who want to work for the international projection of France. So France has to be always inside these actions, and this action goes through accompanying the international stakeholders that are working in an international French co-production in 2012. It's very important to understand that there is a support device that was reformed with the reinforcement of the aid for world cinema. For those who know this a little bit, the objective was just to extend geographically and to reinforce two instruments, two tools that existed and does not exist nowadays. The first one is the South Fund and the help for films in foreign languages. So those two funds that existed until 2012 don't exist anymore, and now we have this new tool with this, the ACM, which is the help for world cinema. So this help is actually open to all the countries and to all the cinematographers and directors who are just working on cinema. And here we're talking about cinema, we're not talking about TV at all here. So it allows France to reinforce its role in international co-production projects, and the idea behind this is to find a co-producer in France, because the CNC cannot give any subsidy to an institution that's not French. And so this is different from what existed before, because now this aid is open to all the countries in Europe, in the United States, Canada, or anywhere outside any agreement of co-production. So the budget that we have in this fund, it's a little bit higher than the budget that we had before in the South budget, because it's 6 million euros, and the goal is to help between 50 and 60 films a year. It is the goal that we reached in 2012, and we will see what the result will be for 2013. So this help is exclusively selective, and it has a form of subsidy before or after the production, because a project that is presented before the project and that has been refused and did not receive the aid can also apply for a subsidy at the end once the film has been done, so it can be seen by a commission, a committee, and there has to be a French co-producer, which doesn't mean that it's the French co-producer that asks for this subsidy. It could be a producer from Iran, and if the commission decides to give support to his project, he will need to find a co-producer in France. So in 2012, 55 subsidies were given to directors from 37 different nationalities on 297 projects coming from 90 countries. So you see that the scope is quite important. The amount of the subsidy given can vary between 50,000 and 250,000 euros. And as you can see, there's a huge variation. It depends on the budgets, on the financing. It depends on the artistic ambition of the directors, knowing that there's an obligation of spend a minimum spending of 50% on the French territory, and here there's always a price to pay in order to reach those subsidies, as you understand. And this is a fund that is still being put in place a year It's existed only for a year, a little bit over a year, so we don't have enough perspective, but there's still a lot of demand for this, and it's very complicated to set this tool because there's a whole work of analysis before the committee starts, and then there's another committee for films, and in order not to mix the confirmed and known directors with the ones who are starting in the profession. In terms of the audio-visual and the digital production in the audiovisual sector, the action of CNC wants to foster an automatic and selective help device for the creation and the co-production of French and European audiovisual projects that will be broadcasted through news supports or TV chains. So the first characteristic is to obtain before the demand a pre-sale agreement with a TV chain. So there's absolutely nothing we can do without having a French co-producer and a pre-sale contract with a French broadcaster, and then we can have foreign partners later on. But you need those two requirements in order to ask for the help, and then the artistic content is not as important, despite the fact that there are automatic aids and selective subsidies, but actually the goal is to serve the whole profession and the sector as a whole. There's a possibility also to start helping at the beginning of the production, helping with the writing and the development of the project before it is done, in order to diversify the help and to foster creation for the producers. For example, they can ask for an aid for development, having a partner, not for the producers who have to go through a selective committee. Actually, they need to have an accompaniment of a TV chain through a development convention that will be signed with this broadcaster. So what are the helped programs? CNC fosters the heritage, for example, animation, etc. All the heritage projects that are opposed to the flow programs, which are the games, etc. Those programs do not enter and they do not fit in the framework of our subsidies. So we only work on heritage and creative projects. And since 2008, those subsidies were opened also to projects that are destined to other supports, internet, tablets, digital supports in general. So we have two directions. There is a selective aid that is managed by somebody who just manages a selective committee that meets every month or every 6 weeks. I just don't remember actually, in order to examine projects with new types of narrations, etc. And in parallel, we have opened an automatic fund instrument that is destined to producers who can apply for this, and that will allow them to gather some money in order to finance web projects in general. So here we're not talking exclusively about broadcasted traditionally broadcasted projects. And last year was a record year in terms of volume of production that received subsidies. For more than 500 hours, 5,000 hours received subsidies. I'm talking about all the genres, of which 3,000 hours in documentary. And this is absolutely phenomenal due to the explosion of TNT, of the TDT, of the digital TV, and of the new chains and broadcasters. So we have a lot of demands, and we try really to be partners as much as we can with all sorts of producers. So documentary is still the first genre that is subsidized by the CNC. I will just give you a few words about international co-productions, just for you to, for this to be clear. We need to have a co-producer who is French, and we need to have a co-producer who really is participating really in the project with an obligation of spending at least 20% on a French soil, and also financing. So we need to have a presence of France there. You will have some brochures of the 2012 a report that gives you an exhaustive, comprehensive view of the different activities that we have in our centers. There aren't many exemplaries of this, so if you want to read those leaflets and have an idea, if you have any questions or you want to ask me anything, I'll be very happy to answer any question you might have.
On va vous donner un micro. Ça marche? Ouais, très bien.
Well, actually, what do you mean? Is it 50% of the aid that you receive, or is it 50% of the total budget? It's 50% of the total budget. Thank you very much. We missed the first part of the question because the microphone was not on. We're very sorry for that. Well, actually, are there any questions related to the functioning, to the internal functioning within CNC, how they manage maybe the subsidies? Are there any questions about how to present the demands for aid, the projects, or maybe questions about how to find a French co-producer? French co-producer hunt, are there any questions about this? The lady needs to speak on the microphone. Well, actually, I was saying that we have the feeling always that we have to present a project that is very well written and very clear before obtaining anything. Do you have any chronological way of doing things? So can we contact CNC to say, okay, I'm working on something, for example, and I don't have yet the total idea of what it's going to be. So is there any help somehow in order to reach the final product, which is what you said? For example, we can help at the beginning, but we can help the finished products. So is there any accompaniment in France? Well, actually, you need to have an idea of what type of subsidies you need to want. So we reorient you and we tell you, well, here we have the impression that, for example, here you have a TV financing, you have a web financing, so you need to have something that is more global instead of being just exclusively TV or web, for example, something that is exclusively TV with a pre-sale, for example, agreement. So we have a project that is more or less written down, and I know that because I went through this experience that we can perfectly start trying to go and see what's going to happen, come back, etc., do some footage, etc. So this is my question. Are we obliged to present absolutely everything, and everything has to be completely done or not? Well, for the CNC, the idea is just to be as transparent as possible, which means that, for example, if you say that we have a possibility of pre-sale with a broadcaster, so we'll start talking about the production. We'll talk about, it will be based on the principle that the project is quite advanced, because it is very clear that you are going to start with this project. So you can ask for a subsidy, and then it depends on the life of the different projects. So if you receive a CNC, so if you're based on the principle that you're going to face a committee, so before each committee there's a secretary for each one of those committees that receive the young or new producers who really don't know exactly what they are doing and when is the perfect moment for applying for a subsidy. So, and he will help them. So those projects that will not go through a selective committee, they will receive just an automatic subsidy, and this is much more simple. And of course, when the first part of the subsidy is just given, because the committee or the commission, the film commission just accepted it, okay, so we'll have a follow-up actually on the project. But in general, you must inform us, for example, on everything that's happening, for example. So there is something that's happening, what are we going to do? And we are just very much accustomed to this life of different productions, and we can answer, for example, if this project, for example, can be shown in movie theaters, okay, so the first actually broadcasting has to be in a TV. If not, there are reimbursing possibilities, so you can go to the other department that deals with movie theater TVs, films that can help you to reorient you, for example. We're just open to tackle all these different possibilities. So I appreciated this, for example. We can just, we're based on the principle that we have the project, we have the pre-sale, we have the budget globally in our heads, so we know where we're heading. And many times it is true that there are changes, there are certain things that we can do that we cannot do due to certain circumstances. For example, going to Afghanistan is impossible. Now you understand what I want to say. So we go, we come back, we have to, this is what I just needed to know. And thank you very much for your answer. Are there any more questions to ask? Yes, good evening. My name is Eva Fontanas, Spanish producer. I was very much interested by what you talked about, this word cinema department. So just go and ask for a subsidy and then look for a French co-producer. But for us, this is something quite new, actually. And I would like to do this, but I have absolutely no idea on how to proceed. So is it through mail? Is it through your webpage? Do I need to travel to Paris? What do I need to do? Well, actually, there's a pink glamorous brochure there that you can just read, and here you have all the different contacts and the people that you need to call maybe, or I don't know, just send an email or get in contact with them, because it's very clear, the information, it's not complicated at all. So you need to send, you know, a file, you need to send an application, and of course this is very new for you as a French producer, because the South Fund was not open to European countries, and so it is in this beautiful pink brochure where I will find the information. Of course, we have our internet site, and the gentleman needs to speak in the microphone. Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any system of accompaniment for those new producers who are just going to disembark there and who are going to ask for this type of subsidies? Well, actually, I cannot answer in terms of the World Cinema Fund. You need to really see with them. I believe that there is a certain follow-up team that will help you, accompany you. How do they work? Do they receive the producers? The producers are not in France, of course, so it is complicated for us. So I really don't know what to tell you. So go to the website. There's a wealth of information there, and you will really be very happy with the information you'll find there. Thank you very much. Are there any more questions? Well, actually, I would like to know what is the distinction that you make between the co-produced or co-bought films by a web TV or by a traditional broadcaster. What is the difference between those different broadcasters, being those web or traditional ones? So is the subsidy going to be different? Well, actually, the idea is to support, and nowadays actually we are very keen. I'm talking about now because we are just going through a reform. I cannot just go deeper in this because we have started a reform on the subsidies given to documentary films, because today, as a matter of fact, we just give a certain percentage for the projects, and it varies depending on the cash that the broadcaster can invest. So the more the broadcaster invests in digital, the more the percentage is higher, and the more the amount generated by this project will be important. So this is what we analyze, even though we try not to analyze only this. This is an indicator that we take into account. Of course, it is difficult for us to give subsidies for local chains that put 3,000 euros in cash, and for the industry. And also we have French broadcasters like Acce and others who have higher possibilities. So the idea behind this is in the future to reach a point where we will find different indicators that will allow us to vary the amount of the subsidy and not to be based on the broadcaster. So we will be able to have better indicators that will refine our possibility to study the amount of subsidy. Well, actually, since 2008, we're talking about a multi-support broadcast. Yes, well, just imagine that this commission just decides to give me a subsidy. So is there any instrument that you have in order to help me to find this French co-producer? Are there any CNC days to go and find French co-producers? No, we don't have this type of events, but, well, the results of the commissions are just published on the website of the CNC, so the French producers just know all this information and everybody knows everything. So it's up to you to try to network. So actually it's not us who need to help you. We can tell you that we know a French producer, he's serious and he can help you out. This does not belong to our framework and our mission. So thank you very much. So once you have given this subsidy, so this money will go to the French producer and he will be held responsible for this. So that's why it's important to have a trusted French co-producer. So this is a marriage actually. So you can start an adventure with this French co-producer that can end up badly. So that's why you need to base this co-production on trust and a perfect knowledge of your French co-producers. So as we have limited time here, I believe that if there are no questions, I will grasp the idea that you just said, which is that the CNC now is open to also give help to the projects within the crowdfunding platform help. I would love to know and have details about how you work. We can start. Actually, can you start talking about Matthias, for example, talking about crowdfunding? Can you just give us details of your platform?
I don't know if I have to speak in English or French.
English is okay.
Okay, so English. So we are both working for a crowdfunding platform. I'm the co-founder of TousCoprod, which is a crowdfunding platform in France, only dedicated for movies. We launched this platform five years ago, in January 2009, and we raised actually 2.5 million euros for film project. Maybe we can share, because the main difference between us, but we are doing almost the same thing, so except that Verkami is a generalist platform, which means there is all kind of creative project on it, like music or design. And voila, maybe you can introduce yourself.
Verkami is a younger platform than TousCoprod. It was created 3 years ago. And as he told you, we help projects from all kind of creative projects and community projects to raise money, but film projects and documentary projects are very popular in Verkami. Around 10% of our projects are documentaries. We have financed 150 documentaries, more or less, and raised almost 1.5 million just for documentaries, so it's very popular, and later we'll comment why we think it's a very popular genre in crowdfunding, which I guess is very useful for you.
Maybe we don't know how you know, if you know crowdfunding, maybe somebody in the audience have already done a crowdfunding campaign. Would you please raise your hand? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So maybe we can share your experience on it, because as you maybe know, crowdfunding raised the average in the world. It's $2,500 for a project, which is a very low budget. So we try to push up this amount, because it's not enough to finance movie projects. So in TousCoprod, for the documentaries, we raised, the average raised per project is 9,000 euros, and it's one of the best film categories in the platform. As you said, documentaries are really interesting for crowdfunding, because they are supported a cause, and it's easier to reach people, a community who want to help this cause. So
yeah, we always, when a documentary project arrives to our platforms, we usually ask, okay, do you have a clear goal with this documentary? Is serving any goal? I don't know, it's trying to talk about some feminist fight, it's trying to explain some ecologist fight. Usually lots of documentaries have this kind of issues behind, so it's easy for documentaries to find their communities because they are already organized, and it's easy to talk with these communities and work together to make documentaries possible. And that's one of the first questions we ask people. Unfortunately, they used to answer pretty fast and in a straight way.
Yeah, for instance, in France, in TousCoprod, we have a project about the giving birth at home project, about a documentary, and she raised in 2 times, she made 2 campaigns, and she raised 40,000 euros for this project, which is a lot. And first of all, she went to channels, tried to sell it, and nobody wants this project. And now she's everybody wants to work with her. She found a channel, a co-producer, and everything. So it's very powerful for documentaries.
Well, our best example is that, in fact, our record project in Verkami, it's a documentary by the president of the association, Isona, about the independence of Catalonia and how it would affect the country and its people. And it raised $350,000, nearly 400,000 euros from around 10,000 people. Well, obviously it's like the issue of the moment in Catalonia, but it served as a good example to other projects that if you have a good community behind, you can raise the money you need, and more important, you can have this community help you to create a better documentary, to promote it, to make it go wherever you want the documentary to be, which is very interesting. And we also have smaller documentaries, raising less money, but with very good relationship with its community. For example, one of our first succeeding documentaries was about Subbuteo, which is a football miniature game, and they have a great idea with its reward. They created this set of miniatures that you could only have if you supported the documentary. So every player of this game in the world went nuts for these miniatures. So there's always lessons in big projects and small projects about relation with the community and good rewards that you can create to involve people. Well, both of us are in the rework crowdfunding.
Yeah, maybe we should start about to introduce what is crowdfunding in the world, or maybe in France, because I have a few ideas about it. There is four kind of models of crowdfunding today. There is the donation, simple donation, the donation against rewards. We are working on this model. There is a lending model that you lend money to your community and you have to pay them back plus fee sometimes. And there is the equity model, which is an invest model that people are waiting to have incomes if you're success with your project. For the films, there is one model existing actually. It's our model, but I think in a few years it's gonna move to the lending model. The problem is today it's about the law. The law in all the countries, it's not possible to make it for the moment, but few countries are working on it. France are working on it. United States and Italy for the moment, to change the law and make it possible to lend money for making movies.
Well, in Spain, we are not as advanced in law passing. I hope the government understands its importance soon, and in the rest of Europe, there's a European initiative.
I'm sure they will follow, because all the countries are aware that crowdfunding it's coming huge. For instance, in 2012, the all crowdfunding market, all projects and all platforms around the world raised $2.7 billion. They plan to raise $5.1 billion this year. So it's 90% increase. So that's
in fact
going bigger and bigger, really fast.
Both of our platforms are growing pretty fast. You told me you've grown like 3 times.
3 times than last year.
We are doubling or raising amounts this year. It's not finished the year yet, so it's growing, and it's important that we collaborate with all of you to make this happen, to make more movies happen, and to have it make it more popular, so more people interact with this kind of making creative projects possible at the end.
Are there any producers in the room that are working already on the idea of making crowdfunding for their project? Okay.
So can you tell us what was your project and how much did you raise?
Hello, my name is Aritz Cirbián. I'm from Barcelona.
Just a little bit. Wait a little bit for the micro.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. My name is Raúl Perales. I come from Barcelona. I'm a producer, and I did through Verkami a campaign in May, and we raised 8,000 euros for the post-production of a short film, which is quite good, because it was only for the post-production, and 8,000 euros. Well, it's fair enough. And it was a quite good short film in a way that it was very social, because it was with disabled people trying to express themselves through the camera and doing activity and being visible for the world. So it helped a lot for the campaign. And now I'm trying to do a documentary for next year, maybe about, I have already the characters, Catalan young people who just have to leave the country, and especially they go to Paris, where they can work as themselves, not as a waiter or whatever, but you know, with their own profession and work. One of them is an actor, another is a photographer, and a scientist, and some other. So I want to use them. They are real people living right now and working in Paris because they have no other option. And this is I think it reflects a lot the society today and the reality we are living here in Barcelona and in Spain. So I want to use you guys, if possible.
And how did you communicate about your project? Have you been supported by NGO organization, supported your cause, or how did you spread the word of your campaign? How did you raise the money?
The one with the short film, you mean?
Yeah.
The one I did already. Yes, well, through Verkami.
What was your strategy?
The strategy was that, okay, we have my company. We work already. We've been working already with disabled people for 5 years, as well, and we do that thing called integrated dance, which we are somehow teaching and working with these people and doing workshops, dancing workshops. So actually the project is a dance film. So through dance, and we've been doing also different shows, and we have also a charity for that concept. So we are mixing the charity and the production company, which is two different companies, and we have used a lot their community actually, and Facebook, and all that. Okay. And it worked. It worked because we got actually investors being people from the dance community and also from the film community, and also just standard people who just want to invest in something like that. But we were using all the different connections, like dance, film, and disability.
So you got how it works, crowdfunding. That's why you succeed. Does someone failed a crowdfunding campaign over there?
It's okay. It's okay to learn from failures.
We didn't talk about it, but most than 50% of projects are failing today on the crowdfunding platform, because maybe but you have to reach an amount, a target amount. If you don't reach the amount on a certain time, you don't get your money at all. It's like a blank action for everybody. So a lot of people failed today, and it would be interesting to have someone in this case and to understand why. No?
Just one thing. If you fail, the campaign was 40 days, and we worked every single day for those 40 days, day and night. And we were like almost 10 people involved.
10 people for the campaign?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, in the short film,
I understand.
There were like 20 performers, and the director, blah 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 blah, blah, and not community managers, 10 community managers, but actually, in all together, we were 10 people really involved in that, and working really every single day.
That's a good advice, because some people think, okay, I just post the project on the crowdfunding platform and money will fall into my wallet. It doesn't work like this. It's just the other part of your financing campaign. You don't call the TVs or the broadcasters and you just let the phone like this with the broadcaster at the other side. Hello, there's somebody. No, you don't do that. So you have to be actively campaigning. You have to plan perfectly your campaign, because you only have a month or 40 days or maybe a bit more, but you have only this time to raise your money, or you will raise no money at all. So during that time, it's great if you concentrate just on campaigning, and on the time before, you prepare yourself very good, so your community is very well aware of that you will be campaigning. If nobody knows that you will be campaigning, obviously nobody will help you. And just listen to him, because they spent all days working on the campaign. And if you listen to successful campaigns, they all do that. During the month of the campaign, they just campaign for crowdfunding.
Yeah, so don't make the mistake. If you want to do a crowdfunding campaign, if you are shooting your project already, you have no time to animate your campaign. So just don't do it. Do it afterward, because you can do a crowdfunding campaign at any time on your project. We sometimes we are launching campaign for the release moment of the movie. So just make sure you got time to.
Well, to take care of your campaign, you're communicating your movie, you are sharing what happens with your movie,
and to be available to talk with your audience. It's really important to engage a real conversation with them.
I think it's also important to mention that there's a percentage disappears on the figure. We made a crowdfunding in France, and it worked. We went past the figure, but then when you count that you have to pay the tax of it, plus the percentage to the site, with the work that's been put into it, you have to weigh all that up. And so that needs to be taken into account when you make your objective as well. Yeah,
your target. Yeah, it's right. We are. The model is quite simple. We take a fee of your amount if you success. TousCoprod takes 8 to 10% banking fee included, which you have to think about it. Second things, in France we advise to pay VAT, sorry. Some producers does. So, but we really recommend to pay this VTA.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Well, and in this expenses planification, you have to count on the rewards cost, because it's always like I will send the backers some T-shirts, and you only count what you need to produce your film, but there's also the cost of producing the T-shirt, and always the less T-shirts you produce, the more they cost per unit. So you have to plan it very well, how much you will earn with every item, discounting VAT, discounting its production cost. So you have really a good planning of what really are you raising, what's your net raising amount at the end.
But just a question, does anybody come from France you're in Spain?
Yes.
And do they come to ask for crowdfunding, or haven't you had anybody yet?
Yes, we are an international platform. I believe they are too. Obviously, as we started in Catalonia, we have a big Catalan community, but we have 175,000 people from all over the world, and that's interesting because you create connections and you discover great French or Italian projects that you won't discover otherwise. So I think that's a great thing to share projects in international platforms, especially in Europe, that we have these language differences. But we also always advise that, as I told you, it's not like publishing your project and money will get into your hands. You have to campaign, so lots of people that would help you with the project is people that you have engaged. It's not people that went around in the campaign, in the site community, in Verkami or TousCoprod community, but people that you brought especially to your project. So in fact, what we do best is giving you the tool to do that and giving you some advice, like, have you checked the rewards cost? Have you contacted the right organizations? This kind of advice is probably the most valuable thing that we do with you.
Yes, totally agree. We are working the same way. We are a platform, we are a tool, and we are helping you with advice. In France, we are making masterclass in Paris and in France sometimes, all around France, where in 2 hours we are presenting you what kind of question you have to have in mind before launching your campaign. But the very important thing is you cannot count of the platform audience. Only 15% of a platform audience pledge on 2 or more projects. You understand?
Oh.
So you really have to go to find your audience and to qualify your audience to success.
Well, we have more repeaters, in fact.
Good for you.
Well, no,
I think it's in the movie category. It's difficult. It's not easy to connect. I mean, when you are on a technology project, people are very
repetitive.
Yes,
yeah.
but not on a movie, because movie are talking about so many different things.
That's right.
You know, so it's not the audience is not really qualified.
Yeah, I think that the crowdfunding tool, it's a very interesting tool, but I think it's very difficult that you finance, above all in a documentary project, that you finance it all with the crowdfunding. So this is something we know. So I think that the crowdfunding tool, it's more a marketing tool sometimes. I mean, you use it also to make your film know. So I would like you to speak a little bit about the marketing strategies tool for crowdfunding, because sometimes we think that we can finance a complete project with the crowdfunding, and it's not going this way. I mean, I want just to make that clear.
Yeah, sure. As we told you before, the average amount is about 6,000 or 8,000 euros for a project. So crowdfunding has to be considered like a new desk for financing. It's not just marketing. The marketing aspect is I can't find my words. Sorry. I mean, there is 2 meanings to make a campaign. One, to raise money, and it really helps a lot of projects to make it real. And also, as you say, the community, the marketing that you're building around it will help you to push your project up.
In fact, if you use your campaign, first of all, to grow your community or create it from zero, usually it works, and in addition, it brings money to your funding needs. But if you campaign only for the money, usually it's less successful, because you are concentrating in the wrong aspect. Mm-hmm. If you engage people with the project, they will bring you money. You have to ask at some moment, but it will bring. If you only ask them for money, no opinion, no participation, nothing. Use the mic, please.
You use this also when the product is finished, and it's also that you make people go and see what you've done.
One advantage of doing this way is that crowdfunding makes you think about this before having your product in the market. And this is great because, well, it saves you lots of bad experiences. I mean, at the moment you launch your product to the market, at the moment you launch your product and release it on cinemas, there are hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people that have heard about it. So it's more possible. You have more chances that people know about it, wants to go to the cinema, and is talking to other people about your project. Which is very important because at this moment, not a lot of documentaries get to the cinemas. There are a few documentaries that are released on cinemas, or in some cases, they even are released directly on TV at the same time where Madrid and Barca are playing, so nobody's watching them. And nobody is watching them because nobody knows about these documentaries. And having 1,000 people knowing your documentary for 1 year, well, at the moment you are releasing, you have people talking about it. I think that's great.
Yeah, there is a question over there.
Je pose la question en français, excusez-moi.
I'll ask the question in French. Well, you have talked about this problem and having spectators. So, are you thinking about working on broadcasting the films that you are helping in financing? And I'll be answering in French, actually. As a matter of fact, from the very beginning, we know that one of the most important problems is the broadcasting, actually, of the project. So that's why we just created a platform, and the CNC actually just gave us a subsidy in terms of the digitalization of the work. And it is a whole complicated issue, because sometimes we are recognized and accepted as a broadcaster, and sometimes we are not. So there are producers in France who actually have certain productions, and it is quite a complicated situation, because we need to have 25% of the total budget from broadcasters, etc. There's a whole series of requirements, but so well, actually, on the broadcasting through the internet did not give any money, so that's why we are just carrying out research and development in order to propose a community broadcasting, which means that those who will give their support to the project also will be working to help the broadcasting. So. Well, actually, this is the strategy that we share with the CNC. So, yes, we are thinking about this broadcasting issue, but what we have done in VOD until now, we're not very much satisfied.
Hello. We raised 13,000 euros in a project, and my question for a documentary, for the first part of our documentary, in Verkami, and my question is about regulation of the income. So in Verkami page, they say that you have to declare all of the things, but I don't know if they put this because to cover their bugs, or it's because there's a real regulation about the incomes, about the revenues, about the tax. I mean, you have to declare like another incomes, but you don't have invoices, and what do you have to do?
Well, the problem for crowdfunding platforms is that at the end, well, we invoice our services, and the rest of donations are responsibility of those receiving them. So we can warn, we can advise, like declare everything. It's good for you to declare, it's good for everyone, but at the end, it's your responsibility. And it's complicated to know every case. So the best thing is to know what's your case. All transfers are through banks, so probably all transfers are controlled. So if you don't declare, somebody will know probably. And the thing is,
my question is a clear regulation about this.
So for the moment,
how are they going to control you?
What's current legislation about donations?
Currently, it's the same legislation as the rest of electronic commerce and electronic sales, which means, and I always explain that, it's like if I'm going to the La Boulangerie, so the bread store, and you say, tomorrow I will buy you a cake, and you pay it in advance. If next day the guy from the boulangerie says, what cake and what 20 euros, you will get mad at him and you will make an official complaint. That's what really happens now. If somebody doesn't complete with the reward, doesn't declare. You have a commercial contract with people giving you money, and you have the legal obligation to make an invoice. But it's your responsibility to make the invoice.
Actually, in France, we are sending you an invoice about our fee.
That's right.
Like you.
But we can only charge our services.
So you can justify that you received money from your campaign. Afterward, depends if you are a company or if you are just a individual guy, it's totally different. In France, there is no law. We spoke with a judge, a fiscal judge, and we have two different answers. So, okay, so it's better in France then. Okay.
Well, that's usually better, you know.
So no, it's not clear. That's why we are trying to make lobby with the government to have a law on it, and that's why in TousCoprod we're gonna maybe forget the crowdfunding things for the law, and we want to get in the broadcaster things, which is really clear. If we are a broadcaster, it's really clear for the law. It's really clear for the producer how to get the money, how to declare it. That's why we're going to take this way.
I would like to make a question. I think it would be useful for all of you. As long as we are always saying that for the producers in the future is more and more needed to get to know your audience from the very beginning, from the early stages of development, what kind of information do you send to the producers, if you send any? For instance, there's any kind of profile that you send from those people who have decided to engage that content? I am asking, like, I don't know, average age, where do they live, things like that. And have you ever, and that's the second question, have you ever found, or have you ever had a campaign which the producers thought that they had a kind of audience, and then after the crowdfunding campaign they found out that the interests were from another kind of people, totally or quite completely different or whatever?
Me first?
Yes,
usually, if you have no clear definition of your audience, what happens is that you fail, unfortunately. But it's difficult because you are talking to the wrong people, and the other one, you are not talking to them at all, so they don't hear you. That's what usually happens. But you can experiment with your audience behavior. For instance, since most of the people in the internet are young people, most of the statistics in the internet tell what young people do. But if you have an audience that's over middle age, then your audience will behave differently. And in projects aimed to people from middle age to older age, people cannot rely on typical statistics, so they have to discover for themselves.
Yeah, there is no average community or a definite profile of backers. For instance, we have a movie. It was a Brittany movie. It was a comedy, and the average of the backers was 60 years old, you know. So each movie is building his own community, depends on the subject, depends on the people he reach, and so it's really different. Some kind of movie are the community of the movie are very young or very for girls or for male or so.
That's why it's very difficult in movies to have backers that support more than one project. Exactly. Because if you've done a movie for teenagers that like horror movies, unless you have a project that goes for teenagers that love horror movies, you won't be able to get interest from the same people usually. Maybe you have a movie for teenagers, so some of the same teenagers will be interested, but not all of them, for example.
Any more questions? Everything's clear? So you know how it works, Verkami and TousCoprod? I have a question actually. How do you work with, for instance, TousCoprod in France or you here in Spain? How do you work with projects or in this case, producers that come from another country and that want to reach your audience in your country? Do you help them to at least identify those people?
Yes, we try to help filmmakers to identify a community they can reach, but they have to reach them. We cannot reach them for their account. So it's just advice, and we are working and identify on internet if we have the same vision of this kind of community to be involved, but that's it, you know. So today in TousCoprod we have maybe 20 different countries using our platform. I mean, filmmakers, backers are all around the world, because sometimes you have a French guy living in whatever in New York or so. But we have 20 different countries of filmmakers.
We try to help this way, but we are not able to know every community and everywhere. So we try to start with the right questions. I mean, we ask creators and producers, have you considered this kind of organization? And we expect an answer more than a yes or no. It's like, yes, I have contacted these organizations or these groups of people. I've been in this festival or this other. And we ask them for these concrete answers, because we know that they say, yes, yes, I've talked with so that organization or that other organization, but it's simply that someday they found a guy who is part of them and they say, yes, we like it. But you have to really engage communities or organizations to help you with your documentary, and you have to be in permanent contact. So we try to help, but usually we try to help by asking the right questions, making producers think about what fails or what lacks in the production and campaigning process.
If I am to reach a community in Spain and a community in France that are similar, can I put my project in TousCoprod and into Verkami at the same time?
If you want to die in the attempt, yes. No, what I mean is, he told us that he had about 10 people campaigning. So if you want to have 2 campaigns, you will need 20 people campaigning. I mean, you have to be fully available for...
You don't ask for exclusivity of the project?
We don't recommend to double, because you need twice the effort. But if you can sustain a double campaign...
Yeah, you have to realize if you do that, you have to support 2 different campaigns, and you have to orient your audience in 2 different pages. So it's possible. For instance, we had a campaign in a Kickstarter for the United States and in TousCoprod in France, and they success in the both of them. But they were 2 people in charge, one for reaching the American communities and one for reaching the French communities. But we don't recommend to do that in the same country. I mean, is that because you're going to post your project on different platforms, you're going to have more money? It's not working like that.
In fact, as we told you, the majority of the people supporting the movie will be people brought to the project by your campaign, not the community of the site. So if you can tell people to support just one community, it will grow faster, and well, nobody will confuse why it's in Kickstarter and TousCoprod. Well, it's a good surprise that they succeed in 2 sites at the time.
If your community are just speaking one language, you cannot, and you want to reach another one, so maybe you can do that, put on 2 different platforms, but make sure they won't fight together. I mean, you won't lose your audience between 2 platforms.
Because if you raise 50% of the money in every platform, you get nothing. Yeah, exactly. So it's better 100% in just one.
And could you give information on the producers or film festivals or whatever activities is needed on how get to know the platforms? Because it looks like it can be like film festivals. I mean, you have to pitch your project in the right film festival with the right commission editors invited. So there are quite a lot crowdfunding platforms. How can they know
we are the cool ones?
Of course, you do everything. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, you get no clue. No, I mean, of course, if you do only documentary or you are doing everything, that's a clue. But you have also some kind of people involved in your platform. So how can they choose you because you have the right audience too, or the available audience too?
I don't think you can count on the platform audience, as we say before. So I think you have to, you have to compare platform about what they give you as advice and accompagnement, and that's it. I was talking with Kickstarter 4 months ago, which is a huge. I mean, they raised 8,000 million euros, so we are like this compared to them, and they have exactly the same way to think. They are not selling the audience to their filmmakers, because it doesn't work like this. The filmmakers have to reach the audience and bring them to the platform. So I don't think it's the main point. I mean, for instance, if you're in Spain, don't use TousCoprod platform, because it's in French. The platform is in French, and it's just stupid to use TousCoprod. Use Verkami, because maybe they're gonna give you a little bit of their audience, because we've got audience, but you're gonna represent if you're gonna, maybe in the best case, you're gonna represent 10 or 15% of your target amount. You know, that's it. So you have to make sure that you're able to raise the 80% on your own. Are you agree?
Advice is the most important part, and the platform experience could be the second most important part. In our case, I think that it's an easy platform to use. TousCoprod, I found it really easy also to use for the people giving money to you. It's important that the process, it's simple, clear, and it's nice.
And for TousCoprod, we're trying to develop exclusive services for filmmaker. As I told you, we're gonna try to be real broadcaster, all this kind of thing, and it's going to be only on TousCoprod. So if you're interested to broadcast your project through your community you're going to build, go to TousCoprod. If you don't care about that, you go on another platform. I mean, you know, I think the market going to grow like this, like all there is going to be. Je n'arrive plus là. Il va y avoir de plus en plus de plateformes spécialisées.
Specialized platforms, because the specialization of platforms allows the specialization of the industry.
In our case, we are more generalists. The good news is that they have one person, that's me, just for films, and we're trying to create these special services. I cannot announce it to you yet, but I think that would be great news soon. And some of those we've copied from there.
I've got one question. Is it better, because when we did it with a short film, we did it through the production company. But my question is it, because you are talking you're mentioning a lot filmmakers. So is it better to do it through the filmmaker or through the production company, as you know, as the one applying to the crowdfunding platform?
You mean legally or in communication?
Yeah, legally and also through communication.
legally, I advise to make it through production company. And in communication, it goes the other way, from my point of view, because people usually want to speak with the people more creatively involved in the process. That's the same when they ask for interviews in the press later when you release the film. It's the same. People usually want to hear from the director and maybe from some actors, but especially from the director. So you cannot campaign at all if your director is not campaigning with you. You won't be able to substitute, try to impersonate the director because he's doing or she's doing another thing. You need the director in the campaign the same that you need the director when you release the film and you want him or her to go on interviews or whatever.
People don't talk to companies. People want to talk with real people. Totally. That's it.
And just one more thing, not to make it personal with my project I have with Paris, these Catalan people living in Paris, but what do you recommend to me if I have to do that campaign about Catalan people, Catalan young people living and working in Paris? Should I do it through a platform here and also maybe use your platform in Paris or just one platform? Because we could find maybe a Catalan community interested in that project in Paris. Of course, the main community is here for us, but maybe there are French people interested in that kind of documentary because it's in Paris.
But do you think that the community in Paris it's a huge community? It's a small community? It's 10 people? It's 100
Catalan,
people?
I don't know the number, but Catalan community is growing in Paris.
In Paris, I have no idea, so I cannot answer you. You have to first to see if you can identify this community in Paris and to evaluate how big is it. If you think it's big enough to make a campaign, make it. If it's just 100 people, it's not going to be enough to raise. That's it.
Hello. The other day I was seeing a project of a production company from Barcelona. They are working in a big film and they are appealing a huge community, an international community, and they are doing this not with Verkami but with Kickstarter. And they are asking for, I think it was like $1 million, or I mean just like a lot of money. And then they didn't need to reach the 100% of the budget to get the money. And I would like to ask you if you are thinking of that option of letting us, I think it's Kickstarter, who does that?
Indiegogo.
Oh, Indiegogo, sorry for that. That lets you, I don't know, take half of the budget you were planning, but at least that's what you have. And then why would you say that if you are from Barcelona and you are planning to do an international documentary or international film, why should you do it with Verkami and not directly with Indiegogo or with Kickstarter if you are appealing an international audience? Thank you.
About the Take It All campaign, our opinion about it is that they are usually less successful than all or nothing campaigns. If people know that you will take the money whatever it happens, they don't have any incentives to help you reaching your goal, your financing goal. If people involved with the project know that or you reach your funding goal or you lose everything, they probably will be more active helping you. That was our thought about this, and we are not changing this.
And I think also that you cannot ask people to, you cannot say that I need 5,000 euros to make my project, and if you just raise the 100 euros, say, okay, I can do it. It's not possible. I mean, it doesn't make any sense for your audience. So we think this target, this amount target, is really important to be clear, to be transparent with the community.
It's important to remember that you have a minimum funding goal, but you have no maximum funding goal. So you can, if you really can make it with 500,000, don't ask for $1 million. ask for $500,000, and you have to be able to convince people why they should keep giving you money until you have 1 million. Why it would be so cooler than they can spend more money in you. But
it's a step-by-step campaign. I mean, you can ask, for instance, 10,000 euro because you need to pay song copyrights, but if you get 20,000, you can make a better image, I don't know, or with helicopter or whatever. So you can make like step-by-step campaign, and it works actually really well. If you're really clear of how you're going to use the money and why you need this money, you can go more higher than your initial target.
And about the site election issue, as we told you, most of the people supporting your movie will be brought to the campaign and to your movie by your campaigning. So you should choose the site where you decide to make this crowdfunding campaign based on what you expect from their advice and their relation with your audience. I mean, it's not about Kickstarter has like 1 million community,
more.
But if it's the same, if you post your project there and nobody sees the project, and you can be invisible. There are 1,000 projects at a time there. If you are invisible because you haven't done any work with your audience, you won't exist anyway. So you should choose the site based on what's best for you. What advice do you think that would be best for your project and campaign, and what's the best for your audience? We are very stubborn with this.
Do you have any experience of crowdfunding projects already funded, helping crowdfunding projects that needs to be funded? For example, imagine I see a documentary that more or less it reaches the same audience that I have or I want to reach. Have you seen like some kind of alliance, some kind of understanding in between projects saying, can you send a message to your backers asking if they can help me?
We are not doing, the platform is not allowed to do that. So the filmmaker can contact another filmmaker on the platform and ask help of the audience, and we deeply recommend to do that. So yes, it's possible, and it happens often actually.
We are running out of time, as always. I just would like to Carole Mangold join us. Going back to the finance aspect of filming, you were not here when we started. Carole wanted to talk about her regional funds to all of us.
Bonjour, je vais parler en français. Effectivement, voilà, je voulais vous présenter en quelques mots.
I wanted to present you very briefly.
Donc, Carole Mangold, je suis productrice
originale, I'm a producer in the region Rhône-Alpes. We have funding of 1.5 million for documentary, short stories, films, and media, new media in development. It's reserved for development for regional producers with the possibility of being in co-production with foreign companies, which is quite common because the goal is to give visibility to international projects. So it's possible to find regional producers. This is not the goal of CNC, but in the region we can recommend you some producers for co-productions. And then we have production for documentaries, or the fund for documentaries. We have to spend 2 200% of the subsidies for the regional industry and the regional production companies. The criteria are quite flexible because some international co-production are not filmed in the region. This was the case for many cases. The shooting wasn't in the region, but all the post-production was done in the region Grenoble-Rhône-Alpes. And this allows the regional producers to find other more well-known producers. And then we have other subventions for development of new media, very inspired of the CNC projects, and the region is open to national and international projects. If it's national, we ask for regional producers.
Do you have any questions regarding to that information, especially people from countries that are not, people that are not French? I'm sorry, I'm tired. Yes, question.
Est-ce que j'avais compris, est-ce qu'il faut
d'abord avoir
la compagnie de production
ou premier il faut contacter the production company, or we have to contact the fund first? First, do I have to find a producer, a French producer, and then the fund? There is another structure in the region, is a cluster, Imaginov, the cluster of image, putting together all the image companies and digital companies, Imaginov. And this cluster will allow you to find producers and to get in touch with them, because in order to see and to come to the regional fund, you need a producer on the region. The regional fund cannot tell you this producer is best than the others, but we can accompany you in all the steps.
Merci Carole,
Thank you, Carol. That was important.
Partager cette information. Oui.
I leave you some leaflets of the fund and Imaginov with the website, and you can get in touch with them by mail. Thank you.
Elena?
Votre opinion is très important.
Elena, your opinion
and
is
that's
very
why you
important
have a questionnaire just to give us your opinion on what happened today. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much for being here.
Gràcies, moltes gràcies a tothom i a l'equip del Sergi, i gràcies, i us deixo amb el Sergi que ens guia cap a la següent part, que és més divertida.
No, I want to just thank you, all of you, for your attention. We believe that those informative sessions are very useful, even though some of you, of course, are tired or just want to continue with your one-to-one meetings, but still we believe that at MEDIMED we have to have these informative sessions regarding to your interests as producers. I want to thank all our invitees here in our table, especially Agnès Tricot. We were really thinking about how to structure this, and I think it was really useful in terms of the information you shared with us, of course, Matthias and Aritz. I hope this has opened another or new ways of reaching the money you need to produce your films and your projects. And of course, I want to thank again Elena Moreno and her team for being always besides what we do. So thank you, and I remind you that we have the cocktail party at 8:30, again at Club de Mar. Following that, the dinner party, and we will finish up with some dancing tonight. Thank you.